everybody, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ. Before we get started, I would like to give a special shout out to the new NoDQ Super Chat champion, who is Colin Andrew. He stole it literally at the end of the YouTube premiere from the last video. I have to acknowledge Adrian, the former champion, and Mike Nixon. They went back and forth, but in the end, Colin Andrews stole it last minute. Thank you to Colin. Thank you to everyone that sent in super chats. If you submit the single biggest super chat for the YouTube premiere of this video, you will be the next champion. Enough of that. Let's get to your questions. This one comes from Isaiah. Hey Aaron, what year did you think WWE consistently became boring? I would say 2009 or a little bit recently 2015. Those are some good choices right there. If I had to go back earlier, I would say the end of 92, 93, 94, 95. That was creatively probably one of the weakest times in WWE history. Although the problem with that era is that the wrestling was also not very good. You had guys like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels to help carry the company. 1, 2, 3 Kid, another guy, Owen Hart. But the roster was pretty thin around that period of time. 2015, though, man, that was tough. Creatively, that was hard to watch at times. With the talent, no problem. You had a hot roster in 2015, 2016, but creatively, a lot of issues. And it's been on and off over the years. We'd have strong periods. 2016 SmackDown, once the brand split got going, that was hot. And I do agree about 2008, once WWE went PG, and the whole guest host era, to me, was hard to watch at times. And you did have a pretty strong roster, but that was the peak of John Cena being Super Cena. And then Nexus came in to give us some hope, and then Cena went back on top again. And it wasn't until CM Punk really got cooking that we began to see a resurgence in WWE becoming a stronger brand. This question comes from Matt. Hello, Aaron. What do you think about Randy Savage's run in the NWO? Was it a good run, or should he have stayed with Sting? Have a great 4th of July weekend, and greetings from Sweden. Thank you for that, Matt. I do appreciate it, and likewise to you about your weekend. I thought it was a good run. To me, one thing that did not make sense about it was Randy Savage and his hatred for Hulk Hogan. The whole feud they had in 96, Hogan spray painting the yellow down his back, only for Savage to end up joining them, although I guess the idea was that the NWO was keeping Miss Elizabeth from him and he finally got to reunite with her. And again, you can argue it was about business. Randy Savage was a businessman, but him standing behind Hulk Hogan always felt weird to me and out of place and against what Randy Savage's character would do. Now, eventually they did have the storyline falling out where Savage went off on his own. I did like it because it was Randy Savage reinventing himself, doing something different with his character, Uncaged the Madness. The whole black and white look that he had was different from what he was using before with all the colors. So I did like that Randy Savage changed up his look and did something different. It was fine. I liked it for what it was at the time. And then he went with the Wolf Pack, and unfortunately that did not really get a chance to shine in WCW because Randy Savage got hurt and had to take a good 6 months to a year off, and then at that point he came back with a totally different look that was a complete 180 from what he had done before. So Randy Savage was a guy that was always trying to do things different and not keep the same look. He evolved the character, which I think is really important for any wrestler to change up their look and do something different. And the NWO was different. Miguel Ortiz says, what were the plans for The Undertaker had he not gotten himself injured before the Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view in 2010 by Rey Mysterio? Would he have been the one to defeat Jack Swagger for the World Heavyweight Championship? That was quite possible. Now, I do not remember if there was any report on what the plans were for The Undertaker long term, but I do think that he would have continued to have been in the world title picture, maybe not successfully win the title from Swagger, although knowing WWE's booking at the time, I think it was quite possible. I think Jack Swagger would have very likely gone down to somebody like The Undertaker. If not The Undertaker, somebody else. WWE really never invested in Jack Swagger as the world champion. So, yeah, I think that there was a safe chance, a safe bet to say that Undertaker would have beaten Swagger and maybe would have had a longer run. I think that the injuries were really starting to catch up with The Undertaker by that point, and that's when he started to dial it down and start working more of a part-time schedule. And then, of course, he came back and did that storyline with Kane, which was pretty damn awful in my opinion. I try to block that out of my memory if possible. DJW says, is it debatable that the Inner Circle is the best faction in wrestling since Evolution? And it looks like they're splitting up too soon, however, due to Sammy Guevara being suspended and now Jake Hager punching referees, shaking my head. And then he also asks, why is the stuff about Guevara resurfacing from 4 years ago? Shouldn't this have been handled back then? Anybody with common sense knows what he said, what he was truly saying, even Sasha. Well, first of all, regarding Inner Circle being the best faction in wrestling since Evolution, I would not go that far, personally. I mean, The Shield, the Wyatt family, hello? Inner Circle's been pretty good, but I would not consider them to be among the top tier factions. Has Sammy Guevara been elevated to the next level? He's doing pretty good, or was doing pretty good until he got suspended, but to me, he never really got past that next level of being Chris Jericho's sidekick. And Santana, Ortiz, their tag team, they're doing good, but they're not at the top of the food chain in AEW as far as tag teams go. There are several teams above them. And Jake Hager, he's only had like 3 matches since debuting in AEW, and he's not exactly lighting the world on fire with his matches. They've been okay, but nothing too special in my opinion. So, yeah, I don't know about that one. And as far as the rape comment that he made, I mean, it was on a podcast from 4 years ago, and I did not even know about it until recently. And my guess is the people in charge did not know about it, and it's something that somebody dug up and found that he said. I mean, those things happen. People go back and listen to archives, and they dig up something that people had forgotten about, and I think that that's what happened here. I think if AEW had known about it sooner, they probably would have taken action. And I'm not sure if Sammy Guevara remembered it or if he just tried to keep it under the rug, so to speak. I don't know. It sucks. And unfortunately, it has halted the momentum of the Inner Circle, no doubt about it. Could they have been one of the greatest factions? Maybe, but we might never know at this point. This question comes from SCW Wrestling Channel, He says, it's Monday night in the 1990s, and we are in the height of the Monday Night War. Which show were you most loyal to? Did you, A, always watch WWE first, B, always watch WCW first, C, see which was the better advertised show, or D, channel hop between the two? I have talked about this before, but I'll bring it up again. When I was a kid watching wrestling, I lived on the West Coast, and at least for the first 3 years of the Monday Night War, I was able to watch Nitro on the East Coast feed, which would be 5 Pacific time, 8 Eastern. And then later I would watch Raw when it aired on the West Coast. So I always watched WCW first, and then I watched WWE Raw. Later, things changed, and I was forced to pick. I would always watch the first hour of Nitro, obviously, which was unopposed. And by 98, I was definitely more invested in the WWE product. So I would watch WWE and I would tape Nitro. And for you kids out there, VHS tape. I would tape the show and watch it back later. Occasionally, if it was a really big show, like for instance, January 4th, 99, I would go back and forth watching the two shows and try to keep up on both of them, but that was difficult. For me, it was easier to just watch one show and then watch the other one on tape later. This question comes from Rollins versus Styles again, please. Hey Aaron, in your opinion, who had the better series of matches at WrestleMania? Undertaker versus Triple H or Austin versus The Rock? Ooh, that's a tough one. I think as far as drawing power goes, obviously Steve Austin versus The Rock. But in my opinion, matches I enjoyed more. You guys know my opinion on WrestleMania 17 if you've been following this YouTube channel and you've been following me for a long time. I hated the Austin heel turn. So I think right there I got to go with Undertaker and Triple H. The WrestleMania match at WrestleMania 17 between them was great. And the match at WrestleMania 27, that was the one really good match of the show. That stole the show that year. And then, of course, you have the Hell in a Cell match, which wasn't my all-time favorite Hell in a Cell match. I honestly think it's a little bit overrated personally, but yeah, that is a very tough one. I think I would go with Undertaker versus Triple H overall, but Steve Austin and The Rock tore it up those 3 WrestleManias, and both series were all-time classics. Definitely worth checking out both trilogies, in my opinion. That will wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A Video. Thank you all for your continued viewership and support of NoDQ.com. I very much appreciate it. Tell a friend, send in questions, twitter.com/AaronRift, #PAIV, and stay tuned for more. Take care, everybody. Be safe, stay positive, and I'll see you guys next time.